Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Power to Change podcast and our ongoing series of Sometimes You Win and Sometimes You Learn. Our episode today is really a good one. It's on improvement, which is the focus of learning. But before we kind of jump into that topic, let's kind of recap what we talked about last week, which was responsibility, the first step in learning. What we learned is that responsibility is probably the most critical characteristic a person can possess. It's a critical ability. Because frankly, if we lack responsibility, we will tend to follow up with an attitude of victimology, or we'll have an unrealistic perspective of how life works. We'll be constantly engaged in blame storming. We tend to give away control of our own life, and we eliminate any possibility of growth. But if we accept responsibility, we take our first step in learning. We see things from the proper perspective. We stop repeating our failures, we grow stronger, and we back up our words with our behavior. So before we move forward, let me ask you this question. What areas in your life do you need to take more responsibility for? Good action question, right? Well, anyhow, let me again welcome you to Power to Change and our episode of Sometimes You Win and Sometimes You Learn. I'm Bob Bauer, your host and the founder of Power to Change and Warriors Heart USA, which produces this podcast. Frankly, I hope you're learning a lot from this series. But if you miss one, we've parked them on YouTube on the Power to Change YouTube channel. So I'd invite you to invite your friends or colleagues to visit our YouTube channel, share the contents. In fact, if you want to generate conversation, pick one of these episodes, play it, and then have a discussion around it. Really great learning opportunities. The other thing, let me invite you to visit our webpage, which is pwr2chg.net. We have a lot more information on what we're doing, our speaking, our transformational speaking, our coaching, and our training. We have a lot on there with regards to our Power to Change series. And we also have information about our faith-based organization called Warriors Heart USA and the projects that we have going there. We have some really fantastic projects for 2021. And in the coming days, we're going to need some volunteers and supporters. We need your time, talents, and treasures. So go on there, click, and if you want to be included in monthly updates, shoot us your email address. So let's go ahead and get started with today's episode. Again, it is improvement, the focus of learning. So let me ask you this question up front. What's your preferred method of keeping up with the news, events, and industry information? When I was younger, it was the local newspaper or the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. And then we had the local news, that was played at 6 and 10 o'clock at night. I grew up in the Midwest. And then we had the national news on the different network channels. But today you've got all kinds of venues to choose from. With the explosion of the internet and social media, there's just so many to choose from. And unfortunately, sometimes they're targeted to particular people, so the information you're getting may be biased. Which really leads me to another question. What is your favorite way to learn? Hands-on, face-to-face, online, reading. What is your best way of learning? Now, I'm sure we'd all agree when I'd say, none of us expect to be perfect, but we all do want to perform at a higher level. We want to learn how to improve ourselves. But it's a challenge when we make a mistake, because the three most complicated words that we can say is, I was wrong. When we fail, we often don't want to admit it. I know I don't. And a story that I often tell, and I think I've said it in the previous series, there was a time I was at home. I had just gotten home from work. I was working in law enforcement, and I had just gotten home, basically helped tuck my kids into bed. They were in an upstairs bedroom. They had bunk beds. So, jumping off the bunk bed was something that was pretty normal for them. Well, one night I'm sitting down in the kitchen talking to their mother, and all of a sudden there's this big boom. The house shook. I thought the kids jumped off the bed. I immediately became angry. I ran up the stairs and I chewed them out. Don't you ever do that again. Go back to sleep. You're going to be grounded, yada, 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 yada. I was angry at them because I thought they did something. I went back downstairs into the kitchen, and about that time I got a phone call. And it was a local deputy called me on the phone asking if I could help direct traffic, to come out there and help direct traffic, because there was a house had just exploded. I had to I acknowledged I would be around the corner in a few minutes, but I had to go upstairs and acknowledge to my kids I was wrong. I apologized to them for my actions, for accusing them of something they didn't do. I asked for their forgiveness, and I told them what was going on. To basically say I was wrong, to me, was a redeeming value when I walked out of that house. Because what happens oftentimes when we realize that we made a mistake and we're wrong, we will blow up like I did with my kids. Other times, people try to cover up when they made a mistake, and it's a real big one. They try to cover it up. There's not a day that we go by and we see this in the news media where politicians and mega businessmen have made mistakes and they try to cover it up. Or the one I really love is when they try to back up their statements. That's not what I really meant to say. You're taking my words out of context. They really try to cover it up while they're backing it up. But the most tragic way we can respond is that we quit and we give up. Insights on improvement basically help us to continue to learn and improve. All successful people have in their DNA that I want to learn from my mistakes and I want to improve them. One of the first things they'll do is improving yourself is to improve, realizing that when you improve yourself, everything else improves. In fact, Bennis and Nanus once said, it is the capacity to develop and improve oneself that distinguish leaders from followers. Think about that. The capacity to develop and improve ourselves distinguishes us as leaders from the followers. Let me ask you another question, and we're staying on the same vein of conversation, but let me ask you another question. Have you ever felt like you've plateaued in your quest for success? Let me just give you an example, and a lot of people can identify with this one. You're trying to lose weight, and you get out there and you have a regimen, you're working really hard and really hard and really hard, and you've lost a significant amount of weight, but you need to lose more, and it just doesn't seem like it's coming off. You've plateaued. The question is, are you learning more with your success than you are in your growth? On the weight loss issue, think about it. You've learned, hopefully, as you were losing your weight, you've learned how to better care for yourself through your physical fitness, through your eating habits, your sleeping habits. Your health is improved. You just can't get past that 20 pounds you've lost. You want to go to 30 pounds. You're stuck at looking at your success and not what you've learned in growth. In order to achieve that extra oomph over that mountain is you got to change your mindset. Because success does not always bring growth. The highest reward we can get from our toil is not what we get for it. It is what we become by it. Don't ask yourself, what am I getting? Ask yourself, what am I becoming? Let me say this. If you're not moving forward, I promise you the world is going to pass you by. If you want to improve your life, your family, your work, your economic situation, your influence, or anything else, you need to improve yourself. Because you see, improvement requires us to move out of our comfort zone. Taking a new step, uttering a new word is what people fear the most. However, what people should fear the most is not taking the step forward. Because if we do not step forward out of our comfort zone and into the unknown, we will not improve or grow. Security doesn't take us forward. It doesn't even help us overcome adversity. It doesn't lead to progress. You will never get interesting if you're always doing the safe thing. You have to surrender to security to improve. So let me ask you this. What will it take to get you to move out of your comfort zone? Handling our aversions to making mistakes. Mistakes are not failures, folks. They are proof that we are making an effort. When you understand that, you can easily move out of your comfort zone and try something new and improve. You know, as I'm making this right now, we're going through a big change with regards to COVID, an absolute big change. Some people want to move forward. Some people want to move backwards. Some people want to stay in place. Those who move forward with caution and following guidelines are going to be successful in moving away from the restrictions of a pandemic that we are now recognizing as moving away. But those who want to stay hunkered down and wait for, I don't know, something that would give them encouragement that everything is gone, or better yet, go back to hibernating again, are going to fail. We have to overcome a life controlled by feelings. The most common trait found in successful people is that they conquered the temptation to give up. Not being controlled by our feelings means that we can face our fears, get out of our comfort zone, and try new things. Remember Cal Ripken Jr.? He's a retired baseball player from the Baltimore Orioles. Did you know Ripken played 2,632 consecutive games? He did not miss a day in all of those games. I'm sure he didn't feel like getting ready to play in every game, but he set his feelings aside to get out of his comfort zone to achieve his goal. Ripken learned that improvement demands commitment. And improvements are not satisfied with quick fixes. You know, it's been said that we live in a society of destination diseases. Yeah. When I turn 65 and I retired, I'm going to do this. When I turn 50, I'm going to do this. When I turn 30, my intention is become a billionaire and quit that. People have a characteristic where they want to do just enough to arrive, then retire. Everyone is looking for a quick fix. What they need is fitness. People who look for fixes stop doing things what's right when the pressure is relieved. They stop doing things when all the pressure is gone. Losers don't lose because they focus on losing. They lose because they focus on just getting by. Accept the fact that improvement is a never-ending battle. In fact, Carl Sandburg once said, "There's an eagle inside of me that wants to soar and a hippopotamus that wants to wallow in the mud." How many of us feel like this at times? The challenge for us is to follow the impulse to soar and not wallow in the mud. Here's a saying that you should adopt. I am not where I'm supposed to be. I am not what I want to be, but I'm not what I used to be. I haven't learned how to arrive. I've just learned how to keep going. Write those words down and learn them. Accept that improvements is a result of small steps. People are looking for the secrets to success. They want a magic bullet, an easy answer, a single thing that will thrust them into the world of success. But success in most things come as a result of incremental and straightforward progress. Small differences over time create a big difference. Improvement is achieved in inches, not giant steps. The line between failure and success is so fine that we scarcely know when we pass it by. We often are on the line and we don't know it. How many times have people thrown up their hands in the air and quit when if they just applied a little bit more effort, a little bit more patience, they would have achieved success? Do you know anyone like that? Could it be you, maybe? Improvement is an everyday commitment. As you work to improve yourself, think of these two words: intention and contemplation. With intention, each day be intentional to learn something new. In contemplation, time alone is essential to self-improvement. Spend time thinking about your challenges to gain perspective. Evaluate your losses and learn from them. The most important words we will ever utter are the words that we say to ourselves about ourselves when we are ourselves. Never compare yourself to anyone else. You can't become them. You have to become yourself. So let's switch gears and let's talk about taking action, because making improvements is intentional. You have to decide you're worth it. To improve yourself, you must believe in yourself. It is the conviction that there is value in your dreams. Personal development is the belief that you are worth the effort, the time, the energy needed to develop yourself. It gives you permission to invest in yourself so you can develop your potential. You don't need anyone else's dreams to invest in you. You just need yours. You don't need to become anyone else but yourself. And the second thing is pick an area to improve. I'd love to share with you a story about a wealthy Texan that passed away, leaving his estate to his family and friends. The lawyer began to read the will, and it said, "To my cousin Ed, I leave you my ranch. To my brother Jim, I leave you my money market accounts. To my neighbor and good friend Fred, I leave you my stocks. And finally, to my cousin George, who always sat around and never did anything but wanted to be remembered in my will, I want to say hi, George." George kind of epitomizes much of our society. They just sit around not wanting to improve anything, but they want everything. Are we impatient to become all we can be? We can do that by trying to improve ourselves. We need to focus. If you would be rich, you would be rich. If you would be good, then be good. If you want to be learned, you'll be learned. Wish for one thing exclusively and don't at the same time wish for 100 other things. And finally, find opportunities to improve. in the wake of your losses. Focused strategic improvement is essential to success, but so is learning from our losses as they come. Some life lessons cannot wait. You must make the most of them when they occur. If you do not examine what went wrong while the details are fresh, you're going to lose the ability to learn from the lesson. When you cease to be better, you actually cease to be good. When you stop growing, you cease to be useful, like a weed in a garden. We are what we are today because we were what we were yesterday. Our thoughts today determine our actions tomorrow. Knowledge may come from study, but wisdom comes from learning and improving in the wake of our mistakes. Folks, we're a work in progress. You don't have to be perfect. Industrialist Ian McGregor once said, I work on the same principle as people who train horses. You start with low fences, easily achieve goals, and work up. Evaluate recent mistakes or losses. What areas did you discover that you needed to improve on? Okay, this week, I'm going to encourage you to set aside some time to grow and learn in the areas that you have identified. This is your opportunity. This is the focus of learning. So, folks, I want to